In a city where life buzzed with energy, stories of courage and resilience often went unnoticed. People were too busy chasing their dreams or simply surviving the grind to pay attention to the small moments that could change lives forever. But, on one unremarkable evening, something extraordinary happened. A moment that would remind everyone that heroes don't always wear capes. This is the story of how an ordinary man stepped up when it mattered most, standing tall against injustice. In a way no one saw coming, Maya was just another teenager trying to make her way through life. At 16, she had big dreams of becoming a doctor, of helping others, of proving to the world that she could rise above the challenges stacked against her. She lived in a modest neighborhood on the outskirts of the city, surrounded by people who worked hard, but rarely got ahead. Despite the struggles, Maya's spirit remained unbroken. Every day she attended school, studied late into the night, and helped her mother take care of her younger siblings. Life wasn't easy, but Maya believed things would get better if she kept pushing forward. That evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the streets, Maya hurried home from school. Her backpack weighed heavily on her shoulders, not just because of the books inside, but also because of the responsibilities waiting for her at home. She walked briskly, her sneakers scuffing against the cracked pavement. The air smelled faintly of rain, and the streetlights flickered to life, illuminating patches of darkness. Though the route was familiar, it felt eerily quiet tonight. Something about the stillness made her uneasy, but she shook off the feeling, reminding herself that she had walked this path countless times before. As Maya turned onto a narrow side street, she noticed three figures leaning casually against a graffiti-covered wall. They looked like troublemakers, jeans sagging low, hoodies pulled over their heads, cigarettes dangling lazily from their lips. Maya instinctively tightened her grip on her backpack straps, hoping they wouldn't notice her. But hope wasn't enough. As she passed them, one of the men pushed himself off the wall and blocked her path. "Hey there, sweetheart," he said, his voice dripping with mockery. "Where are you headed so fast?" Maya froze, her heart hammering in her chest. She tried to step around him, but he moved closer, invading her personal space. The other two joined him, forming a semicircle around her. Panic surged through her veins as they laughed, their voices sharp and cruel. One of them reached out and grabbed her backpack, yanking it roughly. "Let me see what you've got in here," he sneered, rifling through its contents. Maya wanted to scream, to fight back, but fear paralyzed her. Tears welled up in her eyes as she pleaded, "Please, just leave me alone." The leader of the group smirked, clearly enjoying her distress. He taunted her with hurtful words, mocking her appearance and throwing racial slurs her way. Each insult cut deeper than the last, leaving Maya feeling powerless and humiliated. She thought about running, but there was nowhere to go. These men had her trapped, and all she could do was pray for someone, anyone, to come to her rescue. What none of them realized, however, was that help was already nearby. Across the street, Marcus stood silently in the shadows, watching the scene unfold. A former convict who had spent nearly a decade behind bars, Marcus knew a thing or two about violence and intimidation. He had been released a few years ago and had struggled to rebuild his life ever since. Society labeled him a criminal, judging him for his past mistakes without giving him a chance to prove otherwise. But Marcus had vowed to turn his life around, determined to leave behind the anger and bitterness that had once consumed him. When he saw the thugs harassing Maya, something inside him snapped. It wasn't just outrage at their cruelty, it was empathy born from his own experiences. Growing up, Marcus had faced similar kinds of prejudice and bullying. He remembered what it felt like to be judged unfairly, to be treated as less than human. And now, seeing this young girl being tormented simply because of who she was, it ignited a fire within him. Without hesitation, Marcus stepped forward, his presence commanding despite his disheveled appearance. His leather jacket hung loosely on his broad frame, and his worn-out jeans spoke of a life marked by hardship. Yet there was strength in his posture, a quiet confidence that demanded attention. "Leave her alone," Marcus said firmly, his voice cutting through the tension like a knife. The thugs turned to look at him, surprised by his sudden appearance. For a moment they hesitated, unsure what to make of this stranger who dared to interfere. But arrogance quickly took over, and the leader smirked, stepping toward Marcus. "Mind your business, old man," he spat, tightening his grip on Maya's backpack. Marcus didn't flinch. Instead, he locked eyes with each of the men, letting them see the determination burning in his gaze. There was no fear in him, only resolve. Without another word, Marcus closed the distance between them. In one swift motion, he grabbed the backpack and yanked it free from the leader's grasp. The thug stumbled backward, caught off guard by the ex-convict's speed and strength. Before the others could react, Marcus positioned himself protectively, in front of Maya, shielding her from harm. The thugs exchanged glances, unsure how to handle this unexpected challenge. They hadn't anticipated anyone standing up to them, especially not someone who looked like Marcus. For a brief moment, time seemed to stand still. The tension in the air was palpable, each side sizing up the other. Then, with a growl of frustration, the leader lunged at Marcus, swinging wildly. Marcus dodged the punch effortlessly, years of survival instincts kicking in. He countered with a precise strike, landing a blow that sent the thug reeling. The other two charged at him, but Marcus remained calm, using every ounce of skill he'd honed during his tumultuous past. He moved with purpose, blocking attacks and delivering calculated hits. Though outnumbered, he fought with a ferocity that left the thugs scrambling to keep up. Maya watched in awe as Marcus defended her, his movements fluid yet powerful. She had never seen anyone fight like that before, not in real life anyway. Her initial fear gave way to admiration as she realized this man was risking everything to protect her. The thugs, realizing they were losing the upper hand, began to panic. One of them threw a wild punch that missed completely, leaving him exposed. Marcus seized the opportunity, grabbing him by the collar and shoving him away. Another attempted to kick him, but Marcus sidestepped easily, sending the thug sprawling onto the ground. Within minutes, the tide had turned decisively in Marcus's favor. The leader shouted curses, urging his companions to regroup, but it was clear they were beaten. With one final glare at Marcus, they retreated into the shadows, disappearing as quickly as they had appeared. The street fell silent once more, save for the sound of Marcus's heavy breathing. He stood tall, his chest rising and falling as adrenaline coursed through his veins. Slowly, he turned to face Maya, his expression softening as he met her wide-eyed gaze. "Are you okay?" Marcus asked gently, his voice steady despite the chaos that had just unfolded. Maya nodded, unable to speak. Her hands trembled as she clutched her backpack, which Marcus now held out to her. "Here," he said, offering it with a reassuring smile. "You're safe now." Maya accepted it, tears streaming down her face. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice barely audible. Marcus nodded, brushing off her gratitude as if it were nothing. To him, it was nothing. It was simply the right thing to do. As Marcus escorted Maya back toward her house, he couldn't help but reflect on what had just happened. He had acted on instinct, driven by a desire to protect someone who couldn't defend herself. But deep down, he knew it was more than that. It was a chance to prove, to himself and to the world, that he wasn't the same man he used to be. Tonight he had shown that even someone with a troubled past could rise above it, choosing kindness and courage over hatred and indifference. And as he walked alongside Maya, listening to her quiet sobs turn into sniffles, Marcus felt a sense of peace he hadn't experienced in years. Little did he know, this single act of bravery would set off a chain reaction, touching lives far beyond what he could have imagined. As Marcus and Maya continued walking toward her home, the weight of what had just happened began to settle over them. The streets were still quiet, but the tension that had gripped the air earlier was gone, replaced by a sense of calm. Maya clutched her backpack tightly as if afraid it might slip away again. Her mind raced with thoughts, relief that she was safe, gratitude for the stranger who had saved her, and lingering fear of what could have happened if Marcus hadn't shown up. She glanced at him from time to time, studying his weathered face and strong frame. He didn't look like someone you'd expect to play the role of a hero. His clothes were worn, his hands roughened by years of hard labor, and his eyes carried a sadness that hinted at struggles far deeper than anything Maya had faced. Marcus, on the other hand, seemed lost in thought. He wasn't used to being thanked or admired. In fact, most people avoided him altogether, assuming the worst based on his appearance and past. But tonight, something felt different. Saving Maya had reignited a part of him he thought was long buried, a desire to make a difference no matter how small. As they walked side by side, he found himself asking questions about her life. "Do you live around here?" he asked softly, breaking the silence. Maya nodded, pointing to a modest house a few blocks away. "Yeah, that's my place," she replied, her voice still shaky but growing stronger. "My mom will probably freak out when she sees me." Marcus chuckled lightly, the sound warm and reassuring. "She'll be glad you're okay," he said. "And hey, maybe don't tell her too much about what happened. No need to scare her more than necessary." Maya smiled faintly, appreciating his attempt to lighten the mood. For the first time since the attack, she felt a flicker of hope. This man, who moments ago had been a complete stranger, was now someone she trusted implicitly. When they finally reached her doorstep, Maya hesitated before knocking. She turned to Marcus, her eyes searching his face. "I don't even know your name," she admitted quietly. Marcus smiled, extending his hand. "It's Marcus," he said simply. "And yours?" Maya shook his hand, marveling at how gentle his grip was despite his size. "Maya," she replied. Before she could say anything else, the door swung open, and her mother appeared, panic written all over her face. "Maya, where have you been? I was so worried," she exclaimed, pulling her daughter into a tight embrace. It took a moment for her to notice Marcus standing there, watching the reunion with a mix of satisfaction and unease. "Who's this?" Maya's mother asked, her tone guarded as she stepped between her daughter and the unfamiliar man. Maya quickly explained what had happened, recounting the harrowing encounter with the thugs and Marcus's intervention. Her mother listened intently, her expression shifting from shock to disbelief to overwhelming gratitude. Tears welled up in her eyes as she looked at Marcus. "I can't thank you enough," she said, her voice trembling. "You saved my baby, girl." Marcus shifted uncomfortably, clearly unused to such heartfelt praise. "Just doing what anyone would have done," he muttered, scratching the back of his neck awkwardly. But Maya's mother wouldn't let him brush off his actions so easily. She insisted on inviting him inside for a cup of tea, hoping to express her gratitude properly. Marcus declined politely, explaining that he needed to get going. "Take care of her," he said instead, nodding toward Maya, "and keep her away from those streets after dark." With that, he turned and walked away, disappearing into the night as quietly as he had arrived. Maya and her mother stood in the doorway, watching until he was out of sight. "He's amazing," Maya whispered, her admiration evident. Her mother nodded, wiping away tears. "A true guardian angel," she agreed. The next morning, word of Marcus's bravery spread like wildfire through the neighborhood. News traveled fast in tight-knit communities, and by noon, almost everyone knew about the ex-convict who had single-handedly taken down 3 thugs to protect a young girl. Some dismissed the story as exaggerated gossip, while others marveled at the courage it must have taken. Either way, curiosity about Marcus grew, and soon neighbors began seeking him out, not to judge him for his past, but to thank him for his actions. At first, Marcus tried to avoid the attention. He didn't want to be seen as some kind of local celebrity. He just wanted to go about his day like usual. But avoiding the spotlight proved impossible. One morning, as he sat on the stoop of his apartment building sipping coffee, an elderly woman approached him. She introduced herself as Mrs. Henderson, a longtime resident of the area. "I heard what you did for that poor girl," she said, her voice filled with warmth. "We need more people like you around here." Marcus shrugged, uncomfortable with the compliment. "I didn't do anything special," he replied gruffly, but Mrs. Henderson wasn't having it. "Don't sell yourself short," she scolded gently. "What you did was heroic, plain and simple." Over the following days, more people came forward to express their gratitude. A group of teenagers stopped by to shake his hand, calling him a real-life superhero. A local shopkeeper offered him free groceries, insisting it was the least he could do. Even the police paid him a visit, not to interrogate him but to commend him for his bravery. Each interaction chipped away at the walls Marcus had built around himself, forcing him to confront the reality that he was no longer the same person he used to be. Slowly but surely, he began to realize that redemption wasn't just about proving something to himself. It was also about earning the trust and respect of others. Meanwhile, Maya couldn't stop thinking about Marcus. His selflessness had left a profound impact on her, inspiring her to take action in her own way. At school the following week, she decided to start a project aimed at addressing bullying and harassment in her community. She called it Stand Up Together, a program designed to empower students to speak out against injustice and support one another during difficult times. With the help of her teachers and classmates, Maya organized workshops, awareness campaigns, and even a mural painting event to promote unity and kindness. Her efforts quickly gained traction, drawing attention not only within her school, but across the entire district. Reporters showed up to cover the initiative, eager to learn more about the teenager behind it. During interviews, Maya always made sure to mention Marcus, crediting him as the inspiration for her work. He taught me that even when things seem hopeless, there are good people willing to stand up for what's right, she told one journalist. If he can change, then anyone can. Word of Maya's project eventually reached Marcus, though indirectly. He saw snippets of news coverage, featuring Maya's smiling face, and heard whispers of her success from neighbors. At first he felt conflicted. Part of him was proud of her, but another part wondered if he truly deserved any credit. After all, he had only done what he believed was right. Still, seeing how his actions had sparked such positive change gave him a renewed sense of purpose. Maybe, just maybe, he could continue making a difference in ways he hadn't imagined before. One evening, as Marcus strolled through the park near his apartment, he noticed a flyer pinned to a bulletin board. It advertised a community meeting focused on safety and crime prevention, with a special guest speaker, Maya. Intrigued, Marcus decided to attend, curious to see what she had accomplished. The meeting was held in the local library, a cozy space, filled with rows of books and the faint smell of paper. When Marcus arrived, he slipped into the back row, blending into the crowd of attendees. Maya took the stage shortly after, her confidence shining brightly as she addressed the audience. I started Stand Up Together because I wanted to honor the man who saved me, she began, her voice steady and clear. His name is Marcus, and though he might not think of himself as a hero, I know better. That night he showed me that courage isn't about being fearless. It's about standing up for what's right, even when you're scared. As she spoke, Maya scanned the room, her gaze landing on Marcus sitting quietly in the corner. Their eyes met, and she smiled warmly, mouthing a silent, "Thank you." Marcus felt his throat tighten, overwhelmed by emotion. For the first time in years, he allowed himself to feel proud, not just of Maya, but of the role he had played in her journey. By the end of the meeting, several people approached Marcus, thanking him once again for his bravery. Others expressed interest in volunteering with Maya's initiative, eager to contribute to the cause. Marcus listened quietly, taking it all in. He realized that this was bigger than him. It was about creating a ripple effect of positivity, one act of kindness at a time. And as he left the library that night, he knew he wanted to be part of it. In the weeks that followed, Marcus became more involved in the community. He attended meetings, volunteered at local shelters, and mentored at-risk youth. People welcomed him with open arms, recognizing the effort he put into turning his life around. Maya remained close to him, often referring to him as the person who changed her life. Together, they inspired countless others to believe in the power of second chances and the importance of standing up for one another. What started as a single act of courage had blossomed into something far greater, a movement fueled by hope, resilience, and the belief that even in the darkest moments, light could prevail. As weeks turned into months, Marcus found himself increasingly drawn to the community he had once avoided. For years he had preferred solitude, keeping his distance from others to avoid judgment and rejection. But now, things were different. People didn't see him as just an ex-convict anymore. They saw a man who had risked everything to protect someone in need. That shift in perception opened doors Marcus never thought possible, allowing him to step into a role he hadn't anticipated, that of a mentor and advocate. One of the first places Marcus became involved was the local youth center. It was a small, underfunded facility tucked away on the edge of the neighborhood, but it served as a safe haven for kids who needed guidance. Many of them came from broken homes or faced challenges similar to those Marcus had endured during his own turbulent childhood. At first, he hesitated to get involved, unsure if he had anything meaningful to offer. But Maya's mother encouraged him, reminding him that his experiences could be a source of strength rather than shame. "You've been through things most people can't even imagine," she told him one afternoon. "That gives you a unique perspective, something these kids desperately need." With her encouragement, Marcus began volunteering at the center. He started by helping with basic tasks like organizing supplies and supervising activities. But soon, the staff noticed how naturally he connected with the kids. His gruff exterior masked a kind heart, and the teenagers gravitated toward him, sensing his authenticity. They would sit around him during breaks, peppering him with questions about life, struggles, and how to overcome obstacles. Marcus answered honestly, sharing stories from his past without sugarcoating the truth. He talked about the mistakes he'd made, the pain of losing friends to violence, and the long road to redemption after prison. His candor resonated deeply with the teens, many of whom felt misunderstood or abandoned by society. Among the regular attendees at the youth center was a boy named Jamal, who reminded Marcus of himself at that age. Jamal was 15, street smart, but clearly carrying the weight of a troubled home life. He often acted tough, masking his vulnerability with bravado, but Marcus saw through the facade. One day, after noticing Jamal lingering behind while the other kids played basketball, Marcus approached him. "What's up, kid?" he asked casually, sitting down beside him. Jamal shrugged, avoiding eye contact. "Nothing," he muttered. Marcus chuckled softly. "Come on, I wasn't born yesterday. Something's bothering you." At first, Jamal resisted opening up, but Marcus's persistence and patience eventually broke through. Over time, Jamal confided in Marcus about his struggles, his father's absence, his mother's addiction, and the constant pressure from peers to join gangs. Marcus listened without judgment, offering advice when appropriate but mostly just being present. He shared how he had once stood at a crossroads too, choosing anger and crime over hope and change. "I won't lie to you, it's not easy to walk away from that life," Marcus admitted. "But staying in it? That's harder in the long run. Trust me, I know." Jamal didn't promise to change overnight, but Marcus could see a glimmer of hope in the boy's eyes. Their bond grew stronger with each conversation, and soon Jamal began attending the center more regularly, participating in programs and showing signs of improvement. The staff praised Marcus for his impact, crediting him with reaching kids they had struggled to engage. Yet Marcus remained humble, insisting he was simply doing what anyone else would have done. "These kids deserve a chance," he said firmly. "They're not lost causes, they're just waiting for someone to believe in them." While Marcus focused on mentoring the next generation, Maya continued expanding her initiative. Stand Up Together. What had started as a school project had evolved into a district-wide movement, gaining momentum with every passing week. Local businesses donated resources, teachers incorporated anti-bullying lessons into their curriculum, and students organized rallies to raise awareness about discrimination and injustice. Maya's leadership inspired everyone around her, proving that even a teenager could spark meaningful change. One of the highlights of the initiative was a storytelling event held at the community center. Participants were invited to share personal experiences of overcoming adversity, standing up for others, or finding hope in dark times. Maya worked tirelessly to coordinate the event, ensuring it ran smoothly and provided a platform for diverse voices. On the day of the event, the room buzzed with anticipation as families, friends, and neighbors gathered to listen. Each speaker brought something unique to the table: a single mother who fought to provide for her children, a teacher who stood against inequality in her classroom, and even a former gang member who had turned his life around. When it was Marcus's turn to speak, the audience fell silent, eager to hear from the man whose bravery had inspired so much good. Marcus stepped onto the stage, visibly nervous but determined. He gripped the microphone tightly, taking a deep breath before beginning. "I'm not much of a public speaker," he admitted with a sheepish smile, earning laughter from the crowd. "But there's something I want to say tonight, something I think we all need to remember." He went on to recount the events of that fateful evening when he intervened to save Maya. He spoke candidly about his fears, his motivations, and the realization that helping others gave his life new meaning. "For a long time I thought I was defined by my mistakes," he said, his voice steady despite the emotion in his eyes. "But that night, I learned that we're capable of so much more than we think. We can choose to rise above our circumstances, to stand up for what's right, even when it's hard. And sometimes that choice makes all the difference, not just for us, but for the people around us." The audience erupted into applause, moved by Marcus's sincerity and humility. When he returned to his seat, Maya hugged him tightly, tears streaming down her face. "You're amazing," she whispered. Marcus shook his head, brushing off the praise. "It's you who's amazing," he replied. "You took what happened and turned it into something incredible. Don't ever forget that." The success of Stand Up Together caught the attention of local media outlets, leading to increased coverage of the initiative and its founders. A reporter from a prominent newspaper interviewed Maya and Marcus, highlighting their partnership and the positive impact they were having on the community. The article featured photos of Maya speaking at events and Marcus working with kids at the youth center, accompanied by heartfelt testimonials from those whose lives they had touched. Readers responded enthusiastically, praising the duo for their courage and determination. Some even reached out to volunteer or donate, further fueling the growth of the movement. Inspired by the response, Maya decided to take the initiative a step further. She proposed hosting a citywide summit aimed at addressing systemic issues like racism, poverty, and inequality. The idea quickly gained support, with local leaders, activists, and organizations pledging their assistance. Planning the summit required countless hours of work, but Maya tackled the challenge head-on, driven by the belief that real change was possible. Marcus supported her every step of the way, using his growing network to rally volunteers and spread the word. On the day of the summit, hundreds of people packed into the community hall, eager to participate in workshops, panel discussions, and brainstorming sessions. Speakers from various backgrounds shared insights and strategies for creating a more inclusive and compassionate society. Maya delivered the closing remarks, her words echoing throughout the room. "Change starts with us," she declared passionately. "It starts with standing up for each other, with refusing to stay silent in the face of injustice. Together, we can build a world where everyone feels safe, valued, and loved." As the summit drew to a close, Marcus watched proudly from the sidelines, marveling at how far they had come. From a single act of bravery on a dark street corner, a ripple effect had emerged, touching countless lives and inspiring a movement rooted in hope and resilience. Though he still carried scars from his past, Marcus no longer let them define him. Instead, he embraced the future, knowing that every day presented an opportunity to make a difference, for himself, for Maya, and for the community they had grown to love. And as the crowd dispersed, chatting animatedly about the ideas sparked during the summit, Marcus felt a profound sense of peace. Redemption wasn't just about leaving the past behind. It was about building a better tomorrow for everyone. The success of the citywide summit marked a turning point for both Maya and Marcus. What had begun as a personal mission for each of them, to heal, to inspire, to create change, had evolved into a shared journey that brought the entire community together. People who had once been strangers now worked side by side, united by a common goal: to build a safer, kinder world. For Marcus, this newfound sense of belonging was transformative. It wasn't just about being accepted. It was about finding purpose in a life he once thought was beyond redemption. In the weeks following the summit, Marcus threw himself even deeper into his work at the youth center. He noticed how the kids responded not only to his words, but also to his actions. They saw him showing up day after day, staying late to help clean up or lending an ear when someone needed to talk. To them, he wasn't just a mentor. He was proof that people could change, that mistakes didn't have to define you forever. One afternoon, as Marcus helped Jamal practice his free throws on the basketball court, another boy named Tyrell approached hesitantly. "Can I ask you something?" he said, his voice barely above a whisper. Marcus nodded, setting down the ball. "Of course," he replied, gesturing for Tyrell to sit beside him. The boy fidgeted nervously before blurting out, "Do you think I can be different, like not end up like my brother?" His question hung in the air, heavy with fear and uncertainty. Marcus understood immediately. Tyrell's older brother was serving time in prison for armed robbery, and the stigma weighed heavily on the younger sibling. Marcus leaned forward, meeting Tyrell's gaze. "Listen to me," he said firmly. "You're not your brother. You get to decide what kind of man you want to be." He went on to share more of his own story, emphasizing the moments when he chose a better path despite the odds stacked against him. "It won't be easy," Marcus admitted. "People might judge you based on your last name or where you come from. But let me tell you something. If you stay true to yourself and keep fighting for what's right, you'll earn their respect. And most importantly, you'll respect yourself." Tyrell listened intently, nodding slowly as if absorbing every word. From that day on, he became one of Marcus's most dedicated mentees, determined to break the cycle and prove everyone wrong. Meanwhile, Maya continued to expand Stand Up Together, taking the initiative to new heights. Her efforts caught the attention of local leaders, including the mayor, who invited her to speak at a town hall meeting about youth empowerment. Nervous yet excited, Maya prepared meticulously for the event, knowing it was an opportunity to amplify her message on a larger stage. On the evening of the meeting, she stood confidently behind the podium, her youthful energy radiating through the room. "Every one of us has the power to make a difference," she began, her voice steady and clear. "But sometimes we need someone to show us that it's possible." She recounted the night Marcus saved her, describing how his courage inspired her to take action. "He didn't have to step in," she said, her eyes scanning the audience. "He could have walked away and pretended he didn't see anything, but he didn't. He chose to stand up, not because it was easy, but because it was right. That's the kind of courage I want all of us to embrace. Whether it's standing up to bullies, speaking out against injustice, or simply lending a hand to someone in need, we all have the ability to create change." Her speech earned a standing ovation, with many attendees approaching her afterward to express their admiration. Among them was a wealthy philanthropist named Mrs. Langston, who offered to fund a scholarship program for students involved in Stand Up Together. The scholarships would cover tuition fees, books, and other educational expenses, giving young people access to opportunities they otherwise wouldn't have. Maya was overwhelmed with gratitude, realizing that her small idea had grown into something far bigger than she ever imagined. As summer approached, Marcus and Maya collaborated on organizing a community festival aimed at celebrating diversity and fostering unity. The event featured food stalls representing different cultures, live music performances, and workshops on topics ranging from conflict resolution to mental health awareness. Volunteers poured in from all corners of the neighborhood, eager to contribute their skills and talents. Marcus took charge of coordinating the sports activities, ensuring there were games for participants of all ages. Maya, meanwhile, focused on curating art exhibits and poetry readings, showcasing the creative voices of local youth. On the day of the festival, the streets buzzed with excitement. Families strolled hand in hand. Children laughed as they played. Games and vendors exchanged stories while serving delicious dishes. At the heart of it all stood Marcus and Maya, overseeing the festivities with pride. As the sun began to set, casting a golden glow over the crowd, Maya grabbed a microphone to address the attendees. "This is what happens when we come together," she announced, her smile lighting up the stage. "When we choose to celebrate our differences instead of fearing them, we create something beautiful. Thank you all for making this day unforgettable." The crowd erupted into cheers, clapping and whistling as fireworks lit up the sky. Marcus watched silently from the sidelines, feeling a warmth in his chest he hadn't experienced in years. He realized that this moment, the laughter, the joy, the sense of connection, was what he had been searching for all along. It wasn't about recognition or accolades. It was about being part of something greater than himself. After the festival, Marcus decided to take his involvement in the community to the next level. Inspired by the positive changes he had witnessed, he enrolled in a leadership training program offered by a local nonprofit organization. The program focused on equipping individuals with the tools needed to drive social change, covering topics like advocacy, public speaking, and project management. Though initially intimidated by the coursework, Marcus quickly discovered that he had a knack for strategic thinking and problem-solving. His instructors praised his dedication, noting how his real-world experiences enriched classroom discussions. By the end of the program, Marcus emerged as a confident advocate, ready to tackle challenges head-on. He proposed launching a neighborhood watch initiative designed to improve safety while promoting trust between residents and law enforcement. With support from local authorities and community members, the initiative gained traction, leading to regular patrols and open forums where concerns could be addressed collaboratively. Marcus became the face of the effort, earning widespread respect for his commitment to bridging divides and fostering cooperation. As the months passed, Marcus and Maya's partnership deepened, blending seamlessly into a friendship rooted in mutual admiration and shared values. They often met at the youth center or the library, brainstorming ideas for future projects and reflecting on how far they had come. Marcus marveled at Maya's resilience and determination, qualities that reminded him of his younger self before life's hardships hardened him. Maya, in turn, looked up to Marcus as a role model, someone who had overcome immense adversity, yet remained steadfast in his desire to do good. One evening, as they sat together on a park bench watching the sunset, Maya turned to Marcus with a thoughtful expression. "Do you ever wonder what would have happened if we hadn't crossed paths that night?" she asked softly. Marcus chuckled, shaking his head. "All the time," he admitted. "But honestly, I think everything happens for a reason. Maybe I was meant to save you so you could teach me how to save myself." Maya smiled, her eyes glistening with tears. "Well, I'm glad it happened," she said, "because now look at everything we've built together." They sat in comfortable silence, watching as the sky transformed into shades of orange and pink. In that moment, both knew they were exactly where they were meant to be, side by side, working toward a brighter future for themselves and everyone around them. Their journey was far from over, but they faced it with unwavering hope, knowing that no challenge was insurmountable when tackled together. As autumn painted the city in hues of gold and crimson, Marcus and Maya found themselves at the heart of a community that had undergone remarkable transformation. The seeds they had planted, through acts of courage, mentorship, and advocacy, had blossomed into a garden of unity and resilience. People who once walked with heads down now greeted each other warmly on the streets. Neighbors who had lived side by side for years without speaking were now collaborating on projects to beautify their shared spaces. And at the center of it all stood Marcus and Maya, two unlikely allies whose bond had become the backbone of this newfound hope. Marcus's Neighborhood Watch initiative continued to thrive, growing beyond its original scope. What started as a small effort to improve safety evolved into a platform for fostering trust between residents and law enforcement. Monthly meetings brought together officers, community leaders, and ordinary citizens to discuss concerns ranging from vandalism to domestic violence. These gatherings weren't always smooth. Tensions occasionally flared when discussing sensitive topics, but Marcus's calm demeanor and ability to listen helped bridge gaps. He often reminded everyone that progress took time and patience, urging them to focus on solutions rather than blame. One particular meeting stands out in the memories of those who attended. A young woman named Lisa bravely spoke up about her experiences with harassment near the bus stop. Her voice trembled as she recounted how she had been followed home multiple times by strangers, leaving her too afraid to leave her house after dark. As she finished speaking, Marcus leaned forward, his expression serious yet compassionate. "Lisa, thank you for sharing your story," he said softly. "It takes strength to speak out like that. We hear you, and we're going to make sure you and everyone else feel safe." The room erupted into applause, not just for Lisa's courage but for Marcus's leadership. Inspired by her testimony, the group decided to install better lighting around the bus stops and organize volunteer patrols during peak hours. Within weeks, Lisa reported feeling safer, and others began stepping forward with similar stories. Knowing they wouldn't be dismissed or ignored, Marcus's efforts earned him even more respect, solidifying his role as a pillar of the community. Meanwhile, Maya's Stand Up Together initiative reached new heights, expanding beyond schools to include workplaces, churches, and recreational centers. Local businesses partnered with her to host workshops on mental health awareness, diversity training, and conflict resolution. One particularly impactful event was a storytelling night held at a popular cafe downtown. Participants from all walks of life shared personal anecdotes about overcoming adversity, standing up against injustice, or finding hope in difficult times. Each story resonated deeply with the audience, creating a sense of connection and understanding that transcended age, race, and background. Maya herself took the stage that evening, recounting her harrowing encounter with the thugs and how Marcus's intervention changed her life. She spoke passionately about the importance of empathy and solidarity, urging everyone to look beyond stereotypes and assumptions. "We're all fighting battles no one else can see," she said, her voice steady despite the emotion in her eyes. "But when we choose to stand together to support one another instead of tearing each other down, we create something powerful, something unbreakable." Her words struck a chord with many in the audience, sparking conversations long after the event ended. Some attendees approached Maya afterward, thanking her for reminding them of their own capacity for kindness and bravery. Others pledged to get involved with Stand Up Together, eager to contribute to the movement's mission. Among them was a retired teacher named Mrs. Carter, who offered to lead a series of writing workshops aimed at helping young people express themselves creatively. Maya accepted enthusiastically, knowing that art could be a powerful tool for healing and self-discovery. As winter approached, bringing with it chilly winds and shorter days, Marcus and Maya faced a new challenge: keeping the momentum alive during the holiday season. Traditionally, December was a time when people focused inward, prioritizing family gatherings and festive celebrations over community service. But Marcus and Maya saw an opportunity to weave their message of unity into the spirit of giving. They organized a toy drive for underprivileged children, partnering with local churches and charities to collect donations. Volunteers wrapped gifts, baked cookies, and delivered care packages to families in need, spreading joy and warmth throughout the neighborhood. On Christmas Eve, Marcus and Maya hosted a community dinner at the youth center, inviting anyone who might otherwise spend the evening alone. Tables groaned under the weight of homemade dishes contributed by neighbors, while laughter and music filled the air. Children darted between chairs playing games and marveling at the colorful decorations strung across the ceiling. In one corner, a group of teenagers performed carols, their voices harmonizing beautifully. It was a scene of pure magic, made possible by countless hands working together. As the evening drew to a close, Marcus stood up to address the crowd. Holding a mug of hot cocoa, he smiled warmly at the sea of faces before him. "This is what community looks like," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "It's not about bloodlines or zip codes, it's about showing up for each other, especially when it matters most. Tonight proves that we're stronger together than we ever could be apart." His words were met with cheers and applause, echoing off the walls of the cozy room. In January, as the city shook off the remnants of winter, Marcus received an unexpected invitation that would mark another milestone in his journey. A local university hosting a conference on social justice asked him to deliver a keynote speech. At first, Marcus hesitated, unsure if he was qualified to speak alongside academics and activists. But Maya encouraged him, reminding him of the wisdom he had gained through experience. "You don't need fancy degrees to inspire people," she told him firmly. "Your story speaks for itself." With Maya's help, Marcus prepared tirelessly for the event, crafting a speech that wove together his past struggles and present triumphs. On the day of the conference, he stood nervously behind the podium, scanning the auditorium packed with students, professors, and community members. Taking a deep breath, he began. "I used to think my mistakes defined me," he said, his voice steady despite the butterflies in his stomach. "But I've learned that our choices, not our circumstances, are what shape us. Every day we have the power to choose kindness over cruelty, action over apathy, love over hate." His words resonated deeply with the audience, earning a standing ovation that lasted several minutes. Afterward, dozens of attendees lined up to shake his hand, expressing gratitude for his honesty and insight. Many promised to take his message back to their own communities, vowing to make a difference however they could. For Marcus, the experience was humbling, yet empowering, a reminder that redemption wasn't just about leaving the past behind. It was about using your story to uplift others. Back in the neighborhood, Marcus and Maya reflected on everything they had achieved together. Their partnership had transformed not only their lives, but also the lives of countless others. Yet, neither rested on their laurels. Both understood that change was an ongoing process requiring constant effort and vigilance. So they continued pushing forward, tackling new challenges and dreaming bigger dreams. One evening, as they strolled through the park where they had first bonded months earlier, Maya turned to Marcus with a mischievous grin. "What's next for us?" she asked playfully. Marcus chuckled, scratching his chin thoughtfully. "Well," he replied, "there's still plenty of work to do. Maybe we should start thinking about taking Stand Up Together nationwide." Maya's eyes widened with excitement. "Nationwide? That's huge," she exclaimed. "But why stop there? Why not global?" They laughed, imagining the possibilities stretching out before them like an endless horizon. Whatever lay ahead, they faced it with unwavering determination, knowing they had already proven that even the smallest acts of courage could spark monumental change. Together, they were unstoppable, a testament to the power of second chances, friendship, and the belief that a better world was always within reach. As spring returned to the city, bringing with it fresh blooms and renewed energy, Marcus and Maya found themselves at a crossroads. The movement they had built together, rooted in courage, empathy, and resilience, had grown far beyond their wildest dreams. What had started as a single act of bravery on a dark street corner had blossomed into a force for good that touched lives across neighborhoods, cities, and even states. But now, faced with the challenge of scaling their efforts, they knew it was time to take bold steps toward an even greater impact. The idea of expanding Stand Up Together nationwide wasn't just ambitious, it was daunting. Yet Marcus and Maya refused to let fear hold them back. They spent countless hours brainstorming strategies, mapping out resources, and connecting with like-minded individuals who shared their vision. One breakthrough came when Maya reached out to a national nonprofit organization focused on youth empowerment. Impressed by her initiative's success and Marcus's leadership, the group offered to partner with them, providing funding, training, and logistical support to help scale their programs. With this newfound backing, Marcus and Maya began laying the groundwork for expansion. They traveled to nearby towns and cities, hosting workshops and meeting with local leaders to gauge interest in adopting the Stand Up Together model. Everywhere they went, they were met with enthusiasm. Community members listened intently as Maya recounted her story and outlined the program's goals, while Marcus's authenticity and wisdom inspired trust. By summer, pilot programs were up and running in 5 different regions, each tailored to address the unique challenges faced by its participants. One of the first communities to embrace the initiative was a small town grappling with rising rates of bullying in schools. Teachers and parents welcomed Marcus and Maya with open arms, eager for tools to combat the problem. Over several weeks, they worked closely with students, encouraging them to speak openly about their experiences and teaching. conflict resolution skills. Slowly but surely, attitudes began to shift. Students started standing up for one another, reporting incidents instead of staying silent, and fostering a culture of kindness rather than cruelty. When Marcus and Maya returned months later for a follow-up visit, they were greeted with hugs and stories of transformation. "You've changed our school," one teacher said tearfully. "Thank you." While traveling to promote the initiative, Marcus also took the opportunity to share his own journey more widely. He accepted invitations to speak at conferences, prisons, and rehabilitation centers, hoping to inspire others to believe in the possibility of change. His talks weren't polished or rehearsed. Instead, they were raw and heartfelt, drawing from his lived experiences. He spoke candidly about the mistakes he'd made, the pain of losing years to incarceration, and the hard work it took to rebuild his life. But he also emphasized the importance of forgiveness, not just from others, but from oneself. At one prison speaking engagement, Marcus connected deeply with an inmate named Derek, whose story mirrored his own. Like Marcus, Derek had grown up in poverty, fallen into crime, and landed behind bars. But unlike Marcus, Derek struggled to envision a future beyond the cell walls. After the session, Derek approached Marcus hesitantly, asking if he truly believed someone like him could turn things around. Marcus placed a firm hand on Derek's shoulder. "I know you can," he said. "Because I did. It won't be easy, but nothing worth doing ever is. Start small, make better choices every day. And remember, you're not alone." Derek nodded, visibly moved. In the months that followed, Marcus exchanged letters with him, offering guidance and encouragement. When Derek was eventually released, he joined Marcus's mentorship program at the youth center, determined to pay forward the support he had received. Watching Derek transform reinforced Marcus's belief that everyone deserved a second chance, and that sometimes all it took was one person believing in you to spark change. Back home, Maya continued to push boundaries, dreaming bigger and bolder. Inspired by the success of their nationwide expansion, she proposed launching an online platform to amplify their reach even further. The website would serve as a hub for resources, stories, and interactive tools designed to empower users to stand against injustice and foster unity in their own communities. With the help of tech-savvy volunteers, Maya brought her vision to life, pouring her heart into every detail. When the site launched, it quickly gained traction, attracting visitors from around the globe. One feature of the platform proved particularly impactful: a forum where people could share their stories anonymously. Users posted about overcoming discrimination, surviving abuse, and finding strength in unlikely places. Others responded with words of encouragement, advice, and solidarity. It became a safe space for healing and connection, reminding everyone that no matter how isolated they might feel, they weren't alone. Maya marveled at the power of technology to bring people together, transforming strangers into allies united by a common cause. By fall, Marcus and Maya's efforts had garnered national attention. Major news outlets featured their story, highlighting the ripple effect of their work. Celebrities and influencers used their platforms to endorse Stand Up Together, amplifying its message to millions. Donations poured in, allowing them to expand their programs and reach even more underserved areas. Schools incorporated elements of the initiative into their curricula. Businesses implemented diversity training based on their model, and grassroots organizations adopted their strategies to tackle local issues. Despite the growing recognition, Marcus and May remained grounded, never losing sight of why they started this journey in the first place. They continued showing up daily, at the Dapi Dabar Youth Center, in meetings, at events, always ready to lend a hand or listen to someone in need. Their humility and dedication only deepened people's admiration, proving that true leadership wasn't about seeking glory, but about serving others. On a crisp November evening, the community gathered once again to celebrate how far they had come. This time the event was held outdoors, under a canopy of twinkling lights strung between trees. Families, friends, and neighbors filled the space, laughing, dancing, and sharing food. At the center of it all stood Marcus and Maya side by side, watching the scene unfold with pride and gratitude. When it came time for speeches, Maya stepped forward, her voice ringing clear through the night. Tonight, we celebrate not just what we've achieved, but who we are. A community bound by love, hope, and the belief that change is possible, she said. None of this would have happened without each and every one of you. You've shown us that when we stand together, there's nothing we can't overcome. Then it was Marcus's turn. He walked slowly to the microphone, scanning the crowd with a soft smile. When I saved Maya that night, I didn't think it would lead to this, he admitted. But looking around now, I realized something. It wasn't me who made this happen. It was all of you. Every person here has played a part in building something extraordinary. So thank you for trusting me, for supporting Maya, and for proving that redemption isn't just a dream. It's a reality. The applause that followed was thunderous, echoing long after the event ended. As Marcus and Maya stood together beneath the starlit sky, they knew their journey was far from over. There would always be new challenges to face, new injustices to fight, and new lives to touch. But they faced the future with unwavering hope, knowing they had already proven that even in the darkest moments, light could prevail, and that heroes, though flawed and imperfect, could emerge when least expected, ready to rewrite destinies with a single courageous act.